Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. I'm Martin Warwick and we're here at the OpenStack Summit 2016 in Barcelona in Spain, and I'm talking with Armando Migliaccio, who is a distinguished technologist and in charge of team leader of the Neutron project at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Armando, thanks for talking to us. Good to meet you. Let's start with an obvious question. What is the Neutron project?
So Neutron is the networking project within the OpenStack ecosystem. You have several projects in this community. Nova being the compute layer, in charge of the compute layer. Glance being in charge of the image layer. You have Swift in charge of the storage layer. Neutron is in charge of the networking layer. So thinking about infrastructure as a service with the key components, compute, storage, and networking, we are the ones that are meant to connect compute and storage together.
Okay, that's very plain and clear, thank you. Moving on then, what role can OpenStack, we're here at this OpenStack Summit, what role can OpenStack play in helping service providers transform and virtualize their network?
Well, it's a very important role, I'd say. If you think about the NFV manual architecture, where you have all these things tied together in order to deliver network function virtualization, OpenStack plays the role of being the virtual infrastructure manager, and Neutron plays a key role within this bigger component as fulfilling all the needs of the networking layer. If you think about how in the last few years has been much innovation in the industry, most of the innovation, which is also open source driven, has happened in the OpenStack community. Where things, ideas are experimented, they're innovated with, and this has been enabled by an open source community like OpenStack.
Now, OpenStack was originally created as an infrastructure as a service for the enterprise, and the focus has very much been on data center, enterprise, corporate, virtual CPE, etc. It's still very important, but what we've seen over the past months, maybe a year or so, the focus is shifting over towards telecommunications, the telco industry and that sort of thing. Do you think OpenStack is actually fitted to perform the function that it is doing or should be doing, because the needs of a telecoms network, the rigor that is required in a telecoms network is vastly different to that required in a data center?
Well, there is obviously friction, right? There has been friction. There's been a good dialogue between the engineers and the resources, human resources involved in the OpenStack community since the inception, and the telco players. I personally think that there was a shift required to embrace the stringent requirements of telco environments, data path, performance and throughput and reliability, availability. But in reality, those requirements are not that radically different from the ones that enterprises may feel like needed at some point. So it is true that OpenStack was defined, or again came about as a cloud computing platform to compete and mirror like Amazon AWS and Amazon EC2. And we've seen a shift in enabling more NFV-oriented and telco-oriented use cases in OpenStack, and in Neutron in particular, we've witnessed a lot more of telco influence into driving our agenda in making sure that we can enable NFV and NFV innovations take place within the OpenStack community.
Okay, thank you. One of the problems of success, of course, is when a community like this grows very rapidly. You start with a handful of people, all enthusiasts, all working together, and as it explodes and becomes bigger and bigger, that can growth in all sorts of things, certainly in industries, and can bring problems of their own. You alluded to that in a way there, yeah. Armando. How is that settling down? Is the dynamic, is friction increasing, or is it pretty well oiled?
Well, you make mistakes. You need to learn from your mistakes and see what works, what doesn't work, and how to fix things. And overall, I personally experienced an increase in interest from other telco-oriented initiatives and open source initiatives, like, for instance, OpenFV, and working more closely with the folks that are involved in these communities. It's something that goes through a learning exercise,
sure.
And experimenting what works and what doesn't. It's key of the process of making sure that things go the way they're meant to go. And we're not afraid of failures. We may have failed in the past. The most important thing is to learn from those mistakes and figure out what can work better and how it can work better. And I'm actually pretty impressed of how well certain experiments have gone. Sometimes things may take longer than someone wishes for, but ultimately, I think it's better to take a little longer to get to the end than not get to the end at all.
True enough. Very diplomatic answer. I like that. And real, of course. Obviously. Final question to you then. How does Hewlett Packard Enterprise as a vendor integrate OpenStack into your network transformation solutions for CSPs?
Hewlett Packard Enterprise has been working closely with telcos and cloud service providers in delivering a commercial-grade OpenStack offering, and that started off with an enterprise-grade offering to embracing like carrier-grade requirements. So again, providing an enhanced carrier-grade version of OpenStack deployments for the stringent needs of telecom operators as well, like cloud service providers. And we've been heavily involved and driving the open source community towards the needs of our customers, so that innovation can take place, in shorter cycles. Sometimes things don't go as well as planned, but it's important to realize, to have that feedback loop and make sure that you improve time over time.
Okay. Armando Migliaccio, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.